The sky was red with smoke. Ash fell slowly from the broken clouds. The once beautiful city of Vale was now nothing but ruins. Burnt stone, shattered glass, and the silence of the dead filled the air. In the middle of the destruction, a small body lay still, covered by the larger body of a woman. Her arms were wrapped around the child like a final shield. The woman's eyes were closed, her skin pale. She was gone. But beneath her, something moved. The girl, no older than 7, opened her eyes. Her small hands pushed weakly against her mother's chest. She didn't cry anymore. There were no tears left. She whispered, "Mommy." No answer came. Outside the city, far beyond the smoke and fire, a human ship passed silently. It was not part of the war. It was just a scavenger craft, looking for old tech and salvage. Inside the ship sat a man named Caleb, a former soldier, now a quiet traveler. He looked at the planet's surface on his screen. His eyes narrowed as he saw something strange. A signal, very faint, a soft beep repeating again and again. It was coming from deep inside the ruins, a location already marked total loss by the Galactic Council. But Caleb knew war zones. He had seen false reports before, and something in him said this signal was different. He landed his ship near the ruins. The ash swirled around him as he stepped out. He wore light armor and carried a scanning device. The signal grew stronger as he moved deeper. He passed broken statues, crushed buildings, burnt flags that once carried royal symbols. Then, near the center of the city, his scanner beeped fast. He knelt down and saw something, a small shape under the rubble. He dropped his scanner and began pulling rocks away with his hands. Dust filled his throat, his fingers bled, but he kept going, and then he saw her. A little alien girl, covered in dirt. Her skin was pale purple. Her silver eyes looked too tired for her age. But she was breathing, barely, but breathing. Caleb dropped to his knees. Hey, can you hear me?" he said softly. The girl blinked slowly. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. He reached for his water flask and touched it to her lips. She drank slowly, weakly, and then she grabbed his wrist with her tiny hand. "You're real?" she whispered. Caleb's heart broke in that moment. This child had been waiting, hiding, alone under her dead mother. He picked her up gently. Her head rested against his chest. Her arms held him tightly like she would never let go again. He looked at the body of her mother. Caleb closed his eyes for a second and whispered, "I'm sorry I was late." He carried the girl back to his ship. Every step felt heavy, not because of her weight, but because of what she had survived. Back on the ship, he laid her on a soft bed. She flinched at first, like she didn't trust comfort anymore. He offered her food. She didn't eat at first. Then slowly, as he turned his back to give her space, she began eating quietly. Caleb searched the old records. There had been no survivors reported from this area. Every file said the same thing: Princess Alari and Queen Vel presumed dead. He turned and looked at the girl. She was staring at him now, watching every move, silent, cautious. "Alari?" he said gently. Her eyes widened. She didn't speak, but a tear ran down her cheek. That name, her name. Caleb sat near her. "You're safe now," he said. "I promise you that." She didn't answer, but she reached for his hand, held it, like it was the last thing in the world. And in that moment, Caleb knew this was no normal rescue. This girl wasn't just a lost child. She was the key to something far bigger, a truth the galaxy had forgotten, or maybe didn't want to remember. The galaxy thought she was dead, but she was very much alive, and now she was in his care. The small ship flew through the quiet sky above the ruined planet. Inside, Caleb checked the controls, his eyes moving back and forth between the screen and the bed behind him. The girl was still there, sitting up now, watching. Him, silent, her hands clutched a blanket tightly. As if letting go would make the world fall apart again, Caleb walked over slowly. He held a small food packet. "Try this," he said, kneeling beside her. "It's sweet, not to dry." She didn't take it at first, just stared at him, her silver eyes full of questions. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She looked down, then pointed to her chest. Double quotes, ... ALARI. She whispered. Her voice was hoarse, like it hadn't been used in a long time. Caleb smiled. "I'm Caleb," he said. "I found you down there." You held. On a long time, she didn't speak again. Instead, she took the food with shaky hands and began to eat slowly. Her fingers trembled, but her eyes didn't leave him. Later, Caleb gave her a pencil and a small notebook. "Want to draw?" he asked. She looked unsure, then nodded. She sat in the corner and began to draw silently. First a star, then a tall building with curved towers. Then a woman with long hair and a soft smile, her mother. Caleb sat nearby, watching quietly. When she turned the page, the next drawing showed fire, ships in the sky, explosions, and finally, a small figure alone beneath a blanket of stone. Caleb felt a cold pain in his chest. She had drawn the day she lost everything. He knelt beside her again. "You were very brave," he said. "I don't know how you survived that long." She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much for someone so young. Then she whispered, "Mom said, wait for the good one." Caleb blinked. "She said that." Alari nodded. "She said someone would come. One day." He took a breath, then smiled, even though it hurt. "Well, I guess that someone was me." Alari kept looking at him, then slowly leaned her head against his arm, just a little. Just enough to say she trusted him, at least, for now. That night, while Alari slept, Caleb checked old military logs. He typed her name into the records, and what came up made his stomach tighten. Princess Alari of House Vale. Last seen during the siege of Luminar. Confirmed dead with Queen Vale. But she wasn't dead. She was right here, breathing softly. In the other room, if the wrong people found out, she'd become a symbol, a target, or worse, property. Caleb closed the file. He looked back at her through the glass door. She had curled up on the bed, still holding the drawing of her mother. He would protect her, no matter what came, but something already was coming far above the planet. A scavenger ship drifted quietly. Its sensors had picked up Caleb's landing and liftoff. The crew saw the energy signature and the scan of two life forms leaving the ruins. One voice crackled through a dirty speaker. "Possible high-value target." Another voice laughed. "If that's the Veil Girl, she's worth a fortune." The ship turned toward Caleb's path. Hungry and fast, back on Caleb's ship, the next morning was quiet. Alari woke to find a small necklace beside her bed. It was made of wire and a shiny bolt, nothing fancy. But Caleb had shaped it into a star. When she saw it, her eyes watered. She put it on slowly, then walked to the front of the ship where Caleb was seated. "Is this for me?" she asked. He turned and nodded. "Yeah," he said, smiling. "You earned a star." She stepped closer and hugged him, this time without hesitation. Outside the ship, the stars were bright, but danger was close. They had no idea that someone was already hunting them, and that Alari's quiet world was about to shake again. But for now, she was not waiting anymore. She had someone beside her, and this time she wouldn't be alone. The stars outside Caleb's ship blinked slowly. The ship drifted in quiet orbit, just above the burned world below. Inside, things had started to feel almost normal. Alari was now eating full meals. She talked a little more each day. She still slept lightly, always waking at the smallest sound. But when she saw Caleb nearby, she would go back to sleep. Like his presence told her the nightmares couldn't hurt her now. This morning, she sat in the front seat beside him, legs swinging slowly. She held her notebook in her lap, drawing small flowers and stars. Sometimes she would show one to him, and he'd smile. "You're good at this," Caleb said. She shrugged and drew a tiny stick figure beside a bigger one. "That's me," she whispered. "And that's you," before he could answer. A red light blinked on the control panel, a motion alarm. Caleb pressed a few buttons and narrowed his eyes. A ship unmarked was coming fast. He stood up and moved to the side panel, checking the scanner. The ship wasn't from her planet. It was an old scavenger vessel, the kind that hunted for tech or prisoners. "Laurie," he said gently, "I need you to go into the back room and stay quiet, okay?" Her body tensed. "Is it bad people?" She asked. "Yes." He said, "They might try to take you, but I won't let that happen." She nodded slowly and walked to the back room, but before going in, she turned and said, "You promised, Caleb." Looked at her. "I haven't broken it yet." The scavenger ship hailed them. A deep, rough voice came through. "Unidentified vessel, shut down engines and prepare to be boarded." Caleb clicked the comm. "This is a private transport, no illegal cargo." The voice laughed. "Don't lie, soldier. We know who you've got." Caleb's jaw tightened. He cut the channel and locked the doors. Then he grabbed his blaster and activated the defense grid. Within seconds, a loud thump shook the ship. The scavengers had attached a boarding tube. Laurie crouched behind a metal crate in the back room. Her fingers squeezed the necklace Caleb had given her. Her heart beat so fast she thought it might burst. The door to the ship opened. 3 scavengers stepped in tall, armed and armored. Their eyes scanned the place fast. One whispered, "Search the back. The kid's here." Caleb moved out from cover and fired. His shot hit the first attacker's arm. The scavenger screamed, but the second one charged. A fast fight broke out in the narrow hallway. Metal clanged. Blaster fire echoed. Caleb blocked one strike, ducked another, but he was outnumbered. In the back room, Laurie heard everything. She curled tighter, shaking. Then she saw something, an old tool on the floor. Sharp and heavy. She stared at it. Her hands trembled. Then slowly, she picked it up. The door to the back room opened with a hiss. One of the scavengers stood there, grinning. "Well, hello, little princess," he said. "You're coming with." But he didn't finish. Laurie swung the tool as hard as she could. It hit his helmet with a loud clang. He stumbled back. She ran past him, back toward the front. Where Caleb was fighting the last attacker, she didn't stop. She jumped at the scavenger and hit him in the leg. Long enough for Caleb to grab his weapon and fire. The attacker dropped. Silence followed. The ship was still. Caleb looked at her. Shocked, Laurie. She was panting, scared, but standing. "I didn't want them to take you either," she said. Caleb smiled, then pulled her into a tight hug. "You're the bravest kid I've ever met." They locked the doors again and sent out a warning. Signal, no more boarders would try today, later. Laurie sat in the cockpit with a bandage on her arm. Caleb gave her a warm drink. She held it with both hands. "I used to dream someone would come," she said, "but I thought I'd have to be rescued." Caleb looked at her. "You did more than wait," he said. "You fought." She nodded slowly, then said something he didn't expect. "My mother was strong. I want to be like her." "You already are," he said. Outside, the scavenger ship floated empty. But Caleb knew it was only the beginning. Word would spread. The lost princess wasn't lost anymore. And that truth would bring more than just hope. It would bring enemies. The stars looked calm outside the window. But inside Caleb's ship, everything had changed. Laurie sat beside him. Her knees pulled up to her chest. She stared at the stars, her eyes deep in thought. After the attack, she hadn't said much, but she didn't let go of Caleb's hand. Not once, Caleb knew something had shifted. She wasn't just a scared child anymore. She was remembering, thinking they reached a neutral station in orbit around a small moon. It was old and peaceful, used mostly by traveling merchants and retired engineers. Caleb hoped they could rest their refuel and get answers. The station scanners beeped when they docked. An old alien woman at the gate looked up sharply. Her eyes landed on Alari. Then on the necklace around her neck, the simple star Caleb had made. But beneath that star hung something else now, a pendant Alari had found in her mother's old cloak. Shaped like a crescent moon wrapped in wings, the symbol of the royal House of Vale. The woman's face turned pale. She stepped forward slowly. "Child, where did you get that?" Alari's voice was soft. "It was my mother's." The woman fell to her knees. "It cannot be." She whispered, "You should not be alive." Caleb stepped between them. "Is there a problem?" he asked, careful but firm. The woman looked up, tears in her eyes. "I served Queen Vale before the war," she said. "I was one of her handmaids." Caleb and Alari were led to a private room inside the station. There, the woman explained everything. Queen Vale was not just a ruler, she said. She was a bridge between the old clans. When she died, our world fell into chaos, and Alari. Caleb asked. She was believed dead too. The woman said, looking at the girl with wonder. Some said her body was never found, but the war was too wild, too many lies covered the truth. Alari spoke slowly. "My mother told me to hide. She told me to wait for someone good." The woman's hands trembled as she touched the pendant. "This crest," she said, "only Blood of Vale can wear it." She pulled out a small scanner and ran it over Alari's hand. The screen blinked, beeped, and showed. The old royal code confirmed Alari was the last living heir to Queen Vale. Caleb sat back in his chair. He had known she was important, but this was bigger than anything he expected. The woman looked at him. "You found her?" He nodded. "In the ruins of her city. You saved our future," she whispered. "But now you must protect it even more. Later, back on the ship." Alari sat quietly in the sleeping area. She held the pendant in her hands. Her fingers traced the smooth metal slowly. Caleb knelt beside her. "How are you feeling?" She looked up. "Tired," she said. "Not sleepy tired, heart tired." Caleb nodded. "I know that feeling," he said. "When I lost people in the war, it felt like something inside me just stopped." She didn't speak for a while. Then she said, "I don't know how to be a princess." "You don't have to be anything right now," Caleb replied. "You're still just a girl who's been through a lot. But what if they make me lead?" she asked. "What if they want me to fix everything?" Caleb smiled gently. "Then you'll do what your mother did. You'll try your best. And you won't be alone." She looked at him carefully. "Will you stay?" His voice was soft but sure. "As long as you want me to." Just then, a warning beep came from the ship's comms panel. A message had arrived. Encrypted, urgent. Caleb walked over and opened it. A cold face appeared on the screen, a bounty hunter. His voice was low, to the one carrying the Veil Girl. "You have something valuable. Surrender her, and you might live." Alari heard the message and froze. Caleb turned off the screen, then looked at her. "They know," he said. "They're coming, but we won't let them win." He added, "I won't let them take you." She stood up slowly and walked to him. Her small hand reached for his again. She didn't look like a lost child anymore. She looked like someone trying to be strong. "I'm not afraid," she whispered. "You make me feel like I'm not small." "You're not small," Caleb replied. "You're a light in the dark." He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, powerful enemies were watching, waiting, but now he knew the truth. She was royalty, yes. But more than that, she was brave, she was healing, she was hope, and he would protect her, no matter the cost. The palace floated on blue stone cliffs above the clouds of her homeworld. Tall towers reached into the sky, still scarred by war. The flags of peace barely moved in the wind. But for the first time in years, the old gates opened. Caleb's ship landed gently near the entrance. A group of armored guards stood waiting. Their spears pointed down in respect. At their front stood a tall woman in silver robes. She had sharp eyes and long white hair, braided like the royal line. Alari stayed close to Caleb. She didn't speak, didn't run. Just looked at the palace with a strange silence in her eyes. The woman stepped forward. "Is it true?" She asked Caleb. "Is this her?" Caleb nodded. "She is Princess Alari," he said. "She survived." The woman looked at Alari, then knelt on one knee by the stars. She whispered, "You have your mother's eyes." Others followed, bowing slowly, but not all. A group of older council members stayed standing. Whispers spread among them like cold wind. She was a child then. Could be a trick or a clone. Maybe the human trained her for this. Alari heard every word but said nothing. She stood tall, even with dirt still under her nails and a scarf covering her scarred arm. The woman in silver led them inside. This palace was hers. She said, "Now it's yours." They walked through halls filled with quiet paintings, statues broken, banners faded. Everything seemed frozen in time, like the palace had waited for its heir to return. In a large circular room, the council gathered. A genetic scan was done again. The pendant confirmed her blood matched perfectly. Still, one councilman stood, a thin man with dark robes and cold eyes. "This is dangerous," he said. "She may carry the blood, but she was raised far from us. She was hidden to survive." The woman replied, just as her mother planned. "She is a child," the man snapped. "She has no training, no knowledge of rule." "I don't want to rule," Alari said suddenly. Her voice was soft but strong. "I only want to protect what my mother loved." Silence fell. The councilman looked at her, surprised. "You speak like her," he muttered. "But words won't be enough." Caleb stepped forward. "You doubt her because you fear change." He said, "She survived when everyone else gave up. That should be enough to earn your respect." Another woman on the council stood slowly. "She's not just alive," she said. "She came back. I saw my sister die," Alari said quietly. "I was hiding under the floor. I heard her scream. I waited there alone for days. Weeks, years maybe, until he found me." She pointed to Caleb. Tears filled the eyes of the silver-robed woman. "I served Queen Vale," she said. "I believe this child is hers." The council agreed to let her stay, but not everyone was pleased. That night, in her mother's old room, Alari sat on the balcony. She looked out at the lights below. People were celebrating, singing in the streets, but inside, she felt unsure. "I don't belong here," she whispered. Caleb sat beside her. "I didn't belong in the war either," he said. "But sometimes, we're not supposed to fit. We're supposed to change the shape of the world around us." Alari looked at him, her eyes not so wide anymore. "I'm scared," she admitted. He nodded. "Good," he said. "It means your heart still works." A shadow moved near the edge of the room. A servant stepped in with a sealed message. It was marked with a strange symbol one Caleb didn't recognize. Alari opened it slowly. The message said only 5 words. "She lives. This is a threat." Caleb took the note and scanned it. "No name, no return code," he muttered. "Someone doesn't want you here?" Alari stood and looked at the night sky. "I don't care," she said. "I waited too long to be seen. I won't disappear again." Far away, in a dark hall of another city, the councilman in dark robes met with someone unseen. "She is back," he said. "And where she has the people's hope. Then we must burn the hope down," a deep voice replied, "before it spreads." Back in the palace, Caleb watched Alari fall asleep in her mother's bed. He sat by the door, weapon near. His eyes stayed open long into the night, because he knew a storm was coming. And they would try to take her again, but this time they would have to go through him first. The sun had not yet risen, but the halls of the palace were already filled with shadows that did not belong. Caleb woke first. He felt it not sound, not movement, just wrong. He reached for his weapon silently, then looked across the room. Alari was still asleep. Her arms wrapped around the same stuffed blanket she'd carried since the ship. She looked peaceful, but Caleb's gut twisted tighter. He moved to the balcony window. In the far distance, dark shapes were slipping through the trees outside the palace walls. Too many to be guards. Too quiet to be friends. He didn't wait. He grabbed Alari gently. She stirred, confused. Caleb. "We have to go," he whispered. Now, she didn't ask why. She just nodded. He handed her her boots, pulled a coat around her shoulders, and picked her up in the hallway. Two palace guards turned the corner and dropped instantly, with silent darts in their necks. The enemy was already inside. Servants of the High Council, Caleb muttered under his breath. They want to erase the last witness. Alari clutched his neck, her voice shaking. "Are we running?" "No," he said. "We're escaping." They moved fast, avoiding the wide halls and open doors, through servant tunnels and narrow staircases. Caleb's training returned his mind sharp, eyes scanning every corner. They passed a young maid. Hiding behind crates, Caleb stopped and handed her a cum piece. "Tell the silver-robed lady," he said. "Princess Alari is alive but under attack." The girl nodded quickly and vanished down another path. Gunfire echoed from the east wing. Screams followed, but Caleb didn't look back. They reached the outer garden. The air was cold, filled with mist. Ahead, the forest stretched like a black sea, dangerous, wild, and unknown. But it was freedom, suddenly. A figure blocked their path, one of the attackers, tall and masked, armed with a staff blade. "Hand over the girl," he said coldly. "She's not your fight." Caleb set Alari down behind him, then stepped forward, weapon raised. "She is," he said. "She always will be." The man attacked first, fast and brutal. Caleb dodged, barely, firing once, twice. The shots grazed the attacker's armor, but didn't stop him. The fight was close. Caleb's shoulder was cut, blood soaked through his sleeve, but he didn't fall. He found a weakness in the attacker's steps, then slammed the butt of his weapon into the man's leg. The attacker stumbled. Caleb hit again, hard, and the man fell, unconscious, breathing hard. Caleb turned back. Alari ran to him. "You're hurt," she said, tears in her eyes. "Not badly." He smiled. "You okay?" She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I'm okay if you are." He picked her up again, and they entered the forest. Behind them, the palace burned. Smoke rose into the pale sky. Hours passed. They moved through trees and muddy ground. Caleb's steps slowed. His wound was worse than he'd let her see. "Put me down," Alari whispered. "You're tired." "I can carry you," Caleb said. "I promised I'd protect you." "But you're bleeding," she said. Her hand touched his back. "It hurts." He looked at her, this tiny girl who had survived so much. And now, even hurt, she worried for him. He found a fallen log and sat down carefully. Alari tore a strip from her cloak and began to wrap his arm. It wasn't perfect, but it slowed the bleeding. "You did that well," he said. "My mother taught me how to wrap cuts," she said, "before the war." They sat quietly for a moment. Then Alari looked up. "Why do you keep helping me?" Caleb looked at her, his voice steady. "Because someone once helped me when I thought I was alone, and because you never gave up." She touched the necklace around her neck, the star he had made. "I thought I had no one left." She whispered, "But then you came. Suddenly, a rustle came from the trees. They stood quickly ready to run again, but instead of an enemy, they saw a group of villagers, simple forest dwellers, armed with spears and tools. At their front was an older woman with tattoos on her cheeks. She looked at Alari, then fell. To one knee. "We've waited," she said, "for the day the true heir would walk these woods again." Caleb looked at Alari, and Alari looked back, eyes wide. "I think we're safe," he said softly. "For now," Alari replied, then took a step forward. She wasn't just being protected anymore. She was starting to lead. The forest village was quiet at sunrise. Morning light touched the trees like golden fingers, and in the center of it all, a small girl stood tall. Alari, Princess of House Vale. No longer hidden, no longer running. Around her villagers from the deep woods gathered. They had lived away from the cities, away from the war. But they had not forgotten the royal family. They whispered to each other as they stared at the girl in the worn cloak. Could it really be her? Was the daughter of the queen truly alive? Caleb stood behind her, silent arm bandaged. His body was tired, but his eyes never left her. The old woman with tattoos raised a staff and stepped forward. "Tell us your name, child," she said. "Let the wind carry it again through our land." Alari took a breath. Her heart beat fast, but she didn't look away. "I am Alari Vale," she said, "daughter of Queen Vera, keeper of the old flame. I have come back." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Some dropped to one knee. Others placed their hands over their hearts, but not everyone was quick to believe. A strong man in armor pushed through the crowd. His eyes were sharp, full of doubt. He looked at Caleb, then at Alari. "You were a child," he said. "Oh, now you return with a human warrior and say you are queen." "I don't say I am queen," Alari replied. "I say I am her daughter. What I become is up to all of you." The man narrowed his eyes. "Words are wind," he said. "Prove you are not here to rule us as your mother did." Caleb stepped forward. "She's not here to rule," he said. "She's here to heal." She was left under rubble. Caleb continued, "Alone, hungry, afraid. But she never gave up. She waited, and when I found her, she still believed in good." The crowd went silent. Even the doubters lowered their heads. Alari looked at them all. "My mother told me to wait for someone kind," she said, "and now? I want to become someone kind too. Not a queen," she added, "but a voice." The old woman raised her staff high. "Then be the voice that was taken from us," she said. "Lead not with crown, but with heart." The villagers cheered softly. It wasn't loud, but it was real. A seed of hope taking root again. Later, in a small garden behind the village, Caleb sat sharpening a broken blade. Alari sat beside him, weaving flowers into a thin crown. She placed it on his head and laughed. "You look like a forest king," she teased. Caleb smiled. "And you're a flower thief," he said, "but I'll allow it." She looked serious for a moment. "Do you think they'll come again?" He nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "There will always be those who want the past to stay buried." She looked up at the sky. "I don't want to be buried anymore," she said. "Even if it means fighting again." "You won't fight alone," Caleb said. "You never have to." That evening, a small gathering formed in the village square. A fire burned in the middle. People brought food, music, old instruments from forgotten days. Alari stood up and told her story. About the day the palace fell, about waiting in the dark, about the human who found her and didn't walk away. She didn't cry, but her voice shook when she spoke of her mother's final words. "Wait for someone good." Caleb stood beside her, silent as always, but his presence was stronger than any speech. As the fire crackled and stars blinked above them, a young boy asked aloud, "Are you our princess now?" Alari smiled. "I'm your friend," she said, "and if you want me to speak for you, I will." The villagers clapped. The old woman whispered, "She's not a girl anymore. She is the light we lost, far away, across the stars. Powerful." People watched the transmission. They saw her face, heard her name, and knew the truth. The daughter of Vale had returned, and she was no longer afraid. Final scene the next morning. Caleb and Alari stood at the top of a hill. The forest below them was waking up. Birds flew, rivers shimmered, and life felt possible again. Alari reached for his hand. "Where do we go now?" she asked. "Wherever you want," Caleb said. "You're not lost anymore," she smiled. "No," she whispered. "I'm finally home."